The first thing she felt was the weight. Not pain, no, pain would have meant sensation. This was heavier, deeper. Like the drag of time itself had coiled around her bones. Karma's eyes fluttered open to see a sky she didn't recognize. It was cracked, bruised with unnatural clouds, torn by streaks of violet lightning that left trails of crystallized mist in their wake. Her hands twitched. Small. Pale. Familiar. But the weight remained. Her heart wasn't beating. No breath in her lungs. Yet she saw, she moved, and when she sat up, she felt the concrete crumble under her clawed fingers. Her body, once human, now trembled with an eerie stillness, the kind that only the dead possessed. Around her, the shattered remnants of a crumbling rooftop stretched out into the dead cityscape. Buildings, half melted by crystal corrosion, lined the streets. From her elevated position, Karma could see far. City was in shambles. Ruins ran like veins through concrete, sections of road uprooted by crystal eruptions. Movement caught her eye. Dozens of zombies, their mutations wildly varied, spiked limbs, crystal spines, rotting wings, crawled and stalked across the dead zones. She instinctively reached for her memories. But all she had were fragments, impressions of her old life. She remembered her name. Her voice. Her death. The lightning. System notice, error, core displacement detected. Initializing, eternal login system. System status, dormant. Awakening in 13 hours, 49 minutes. A small holographic glyph flickered above her palm, brief, unstable, then gone. Her eyes shined with a deep red hue, a thin red mist wafting from her skin. She looked down at herself. Her body was intact, not rotting. Delicate. Clean. She looked almost human. A far cry from the slavering monstrosities wandering nearby. But she could feel it, life no longer pumped within her. Instead, something else did. A dark energy swirled in her core. She looked to the east and saw the great storm still brewing, massive winds tearing through the skyscraper bones of the dead zone, and the faint glow of a very powerful undead could be sensed far off in the north, like an ocean tide of pressure just barely touching her senses. The air was thick with a crystal dust. Karma took an instinctive breath, and some of the dust floated into her mouth. Her body reacted violently, red lightning flickered along her arms, her muscles briefly surging before stabilizing. Her instincts were sharper now. Her mind beginning to slip away as blood flows into her eyes, observing the nearest pack of roaming zombies. He couldn't tell their grade if they did have grades, but they seemed fairly weak, with bloated limbs and exposed crystallized ribs. They moved with hunger but not focus. Just mindless searching. Yet she could feel it. A tug. A pull toward them. Her body itched for something. A sensation she had never known in life, a mind-devouring hunger. It struck her, something primal. She instinctively called for her body's natural mutation, and suddenly the world turned vivid. Every undead glowed with inner cause, XP waiting to be taken. She could feel her new self wanting, needing, craving. She could hardly control herself as she nearly jumped off the building, but she held herself back, forcing her ever-wild body to use the stairs. She reached the exit stairs. As she flung open the door and saw a pair of zombies, she couldn't control herself, and she pounced like a starving beast, devouring them. Her focus locked on her hunger, but even still she didn't feel guilt. There was no resistance inside her. Only hunger. Mutation detected, gluttony core, grade, capital 3 ability, consume undead crystal cores. Absorb fragments of their mutation abilities. Gain scale with total density of devoured essence. Current XP, 0. Next upgrade, 100 XP. Karma blinked, her eyes turning a deep hue of red as her lips curling into something between a human smirk and an undead hunger grin. In the distance, thunder cracked again, and a thick bolt of purple lightning exploded a nearby building, bathing the skyline in a momentary flash and vibrating the building. She dug inside their skulls with surprising ease as she pulled out a green crystal. When she consumed it using her gluttony mutation, she only felt her hunger dissipate slightly, standing up, bones crackling with rebirth, and began walking forward with unnatural silence. She wasn't sure what she was now. She wasn't sure what she'd become. But she knew this. She was Karma. And she was starving. As she made her way towards the emergency exit, she could vaguely note she was inside a fairly modest apartment that seemed to have been torn to pieces with gore scattering the walls. Her hunger pushed the thought out of her mind as she went down the empty halls and towards the stairs. As she pushed open the emergency door, the first of the zombies noticed her. It snarled, stepping forward. Then it paused. Its eyes, crusted with crystal veins, locked onto her. A moment of hesitation. It recognized her power. Too late. Karma lunged forward, faster than she thought possible, her clawed hand piercing into its forehead and tearing free a pulsing core. The cure to her hunger. The moment it touched her flesh, it liquefied into light and vanished. XP plus 12. Gluttony core reacting. Mutation fragment absorbed, bone lash tendril, rank D. Her body convulsed slightly as new mass grew within her shoulder blade. With a sudden jerk, a barbed tendril shot out from her back. It clicked and snapped with an echo as it waved twice before coiling and sinking back into her skin, leaving no visible trace. The hunger slightly sated, but only slightly. Her mind, struggling to keep its reason, felt that this was a foul way to be reborn. Lightning flashed, rocking the earth and buildings. The storm wasn't ending soon. Karma, still feeling her blood boiling and her hunger gnawing at her bones, didn't hesitate. Her new instincts drove her forward, relentless, silent, predatory. The second zombie stood frozen, its mutated face contorted in confusion at the scent of death, its own kind, with no trace of living essence. Karma lunged, claws ripping into its face, and in one brutal motion tore out the crystal core embedded within its skull. The core shimmered once in her palm before melting into her flesh, absorbed by the gluttony core without resistance. XP plus 5. No mutation fragment gained. She blinked. The hunger dulled slightly, but only just, still violently stirring beneath her skin like worms writhing through muscle. Her body craved more, demanded it. Mutation or not, she continued the hunt, her eyes glowing with unnatural light in the dark. Through the howling winds and pounding crystal storm, she made her way down the stairs until she finally reached the exit of the stairs. Bursting out of the building, she appeared in the outside. As soon as the crystal mist in the air touched her undead skin, her blood rage state had become even more berserk. Her mind nearly fully melting from the sudden jolt, her body stalked the ruins of the dead city. She cut through undead. The zombies themselves were not very strong, but she couldn't tell if that was because she was powerful or they were weak. Zombies shuffled and crawled, some drawn to her presence, others fleeing from it as instinct warred with corrupted thought. She fought through them all, razor limbs, crystal fangs, acid breath, none could stop her. She tore through nearly 60 of them before the storm finally subsided. As the last echoes of thunder faded into the distance and the violet clouds began to clear, Karma stood covered in ash and steaming blood, her foot crushing the face of a fairly strong undead that had dared strike back. The core in her hand pulsed once, then sank into her chest. But this time, her body convulsed in response. A sharp jolt of power ran through her spine as her fourth mutation fragment activated, fully stabilized and integrated. She stopped in her tracks, her flesh tightened and stitched back together in the places age had damaged her body. Her consciousness returned. A heavy mimicked exhale, her thoughts had been struggling to stitch themselves together from the rush of blood and power. She felt her body finally come back under her full control. She was fully aware of her berserk mode and even prevented herself from targeting certain zombies, such as children, and while she didn't feel nearly as much sympathy, to her this world felt like a game. The dreamy nature of her sudden appearance and undead emotional control. Even as an undead with her emotions suppressed, she found it hard to see them as a target. After reviewing her memories in detail, she felt a metaphysical chill crawl down her spine. The chaos of constantly launching attacks had left her feeling a bit uncomfortable. She then reached inward, her attention drawn to the glowing mass inside her mind's eye, focusing her senses through the flickering indigo glow of her gluttony core. The 4 fragments within her pulsed like embers embedded in her soul. Gluttony Core, Capital 3, Rank CXP, 86, 100. Mutation fragments obtained. Bone lash tendril, Rank D, a whip-like organic weapon formed from compacted mutated bone. Can be ejected from shoulder or spine. 31% sync rate, fragment 1 out of 10. Crystalline spore cyst, Rank E, produces a single-use toxic burst of gas and crystal powder, stunning low-tier zombies for 3 seconds. 11% sync rate, fragment 2 out of 10. Phase twitch reflex, Rank E, increases reaction time drastically for 0.5 seconds when under sudden threat. 30-second cooldown. 35% sync rate, fragment 3 out of 10. Ironhide rind, Rank D, a thin dermal armor that can be activated to cover key impact zones. Reduces blunt force and cutting damage by 40% for 5 seconds. 23% sync rate, fragment 4 out of 10. She stared at the names, the brief pulses of power echoing in her chest with each flickering glyph. Only 4 out of 60 zombies. So few of the undead had meaningful mutations. But each one was now hers. The hunger, for the first time, had dulled into a deep, lingering throb rather than an all-consuming roar. Her body felt heavier, but stronger. She was evolving. A sudden flicker across her vision caught her attention. System activation time, 1 hour, 14 minutes. Potential login location detected, Cathedral of the Black Thorn, former District 7 church grounds. Karma was baffled, her first thoughts instantly clicked to this world actually being a game. How could this possibly exist? Her thoughts span rapidly, but she had read books about reincarnation and time travel, but she couldn't quite remember exactly how they were written. That's when she recalled of the concept, Golden Finger. A golden finger is a special power that seemed to function on its own rules. They came in many forms, some came with UIs and others were just powers. It seems that she has a login system, Golden Finger. Her thoughts hit a wall at that point, unable to recall any more details. If her golden finger was strong or not, she would only have to discover herself. Gathering her nerves, she began to climb up a building, her strength enhanced by the fragments inside her body. Her fingers grasped the concrete and stone, fracturing it from the pressure of her grip. When she reached the top, she looked around. To the east, where the cathedral stood like a black thorn against the pale skyline, it was surrounded by zombies that seemed to want something inside, but there was a black fence that looked like it grew rose thorns, keeping the zombies at bay. To the north was what appeared to be an industrial area with the faint sounds of gunfire and lights flashing. The rare explosion could be heard. To the west was a large river that split the city in half, the waters bloodied and rotten like countless had rotted in the water wherever it was sourced from. And to the south she saw nothing of note, just more of the edge of the city that bleeds off into forest. Her hunger may have eased. But curiosity, it burned like a candle in a pitch-black world. She decided the east seemed to be the most interesting and less deadly for a zombie like herself, not to mention the system seems quite interested in it as well. She jumped down onto balcony after balcony, but as she was still 3 floors up, she slammed heavily into the balcony and it crumbled, snapping under her pressure. She fell down the rest of the floors, but even as some of the stone landed on her, she didn't feel pain, and her body felt quite healthy as a zombie could be. Dusting herself off, Karma began to walk. The empty streets now littered with scorched remains and crushed cores. The silence of the storm's aftermath hung over the city like a suffocating veil. Crystalline ash crunched beneath her bare feet, her once human figure now almost regal in its presence, her gluttony core humming with subdued hunger beneath her chest. The winds carried a faint whistle through the broken windows and torn rooftops, mourning the city that once lived. She paused. A cracked storefront mirror in a shattered window caught her eye. In its reflection, she saw herself. Her clothing was torn to shreds, her outfit nothing more than tattered strips hanging off her small frame, stained with blackened blood, crystal dust, and oily ash. Her pale skin was streaked and mottled with grime, her hair matted and tangled. War paint, if one were poetic. Disgusting, if one were crude. Her eyes surprisingly shone with a light unlike the undead she had seen. Her thoughts were shocking calm, too calm. She felt a bit strange, but time didn't wait for her thoughts. She looked around while thinking and saw a store sign. Gothique Trouvé, a boutique. The building was quite damaged like the rest of the city. The door and windows missing, and inside she saw not much. Even the furniture that was bolted down had been pried free from the ground. Scavengers had long searched this place for every scrap of fabric they could get their hands on. Yet, in the far back, there was a false wall that seemed to have been revealed from the wallpaper rotting away. After inspecting the wall, she managed to pry it free, snapping the bolt that had hardly held together. In the back room it was quite small, only around 6 mannequins were able to fit in the room. It was quite an abnormal sight to find something that had not been taken already. The mannequins still had outfits. After inspecting the mannequins, she frowned. None of them seemed that sturdy, or they were simply too large for her. Peeking inside the back door, she saw a room. The room is small, perhaps only as large as an apartment bathroom. The walls had textiles, their rolls torn but left in quite good condition. There was a large wooden coffin-like box embedded in the back wall. It was locked tight. Inspecting the lock, she saw it was no normal lock. There were at least 6 different locks that appeared to be put on in haste. Then there was another 3 locks that were much higher quality and seemed built into the door. It took her a few attempts, but Karma managed to just tear the entire coffin door to pieces as the door slammed heavily to the ground. She saw it, a black Victorian-style dress, the fabric rich, durable, barely frayed. Somehow, the quality textile and wooden case had preserved it, shielding it from time. Her mind couldn't help but think of how the owner of such a place would go out of their way to save something like this even in the end of the world. They must be quite the big boss. She couldn't help but think, as she freed the dress from its coffin. Without much more ceremony, she peeled off the remains of her old outfit and slipped the new one on. It fit snugly, a bit tight, but it held strong. Leaving the back room, she walked in front of a mirror in the mannequin room. This time when she appeared in front of the mirror, she saw the soot and blood smeared across her face gave her a strangely human appearance, like some war-torn survivor out of myth. Eyes bright. Frame small. Flesh wrong. But expression real. She looked a little alive.